Hey guys, Sharpend here. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple trick to add constantly changing variation to any element in your tracks using field recordings. Here's how it sounds with kicks. Here's how it sounds with snares. And here's how it sounds with synths. In order to create that effect, the first thing you need is a field recording sample. It could be pretty much anything, fire sounds, rain sounds, planes passing by, room noise. You just need to make sure that the recording is very ambient in its nature and then it doesn't have a lot of very loud and sudden hits. So I'm going to be using a rain recording, which is this one. And as you can see, most of the recording has a similar volume level, but at some parts there are very loud clicks. And I want to get rid of them so that we have a more equal volume throughout the recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link it to a mixer track and I'm going to open a limiter. Now I'm going to see how loud the click is. As you can see, this is the volume of the click. So I'm going to set the limiter ceiling to around here to negate some of the high volume of that click. So now it will sound at around here instead. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to export it so that we have this recording that doesn't have very loud peaks like that. And now that we have a more even recording, as you can see, the click here looks like this here, which is much better. We can start working with our sounds. So I'm going to start by linking our new recording to a mixer track. And I'm going to set its volume to be very, very low so that you can barely hear it. As you can see, at 2% volume. And now I'm going to set our kick to a different mixer track, like this one. And I'm going to sidechain it to our recording. So right now it sounds like this. As you can see, and here you can barely hear the field recording now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a compressor, and in the compressor I'm going to set it so that the kick is sidechained, so that the field recording is sidechained to the kick. So now what I'm going to do is to set the threshold to be very low, but instead of setting the ratio to a positive ratio, which would mean each time the kick hits, the volume of the field recording goes down, I'm going to set it to a negative ratio, which would mean that each time the kick hits, the volume of the field recording goes up. So let's see how it sounds. Let's increase the ratio. As you can hear, at very intense ratio amounts, the volume of the field recording goes up by quite a lot. So I'm going to set it to not be that dramatic of an effect, like here. Well, you can barely hear it, but it's still noticeable, and as you can see, each time the kick hits, a different part of the recording goes up in its volume and gives us a different kick each time it hits. So this effect is up to your taste. You can increase the release if you're looking for a longer sound, like this. Or you could shorten the release for a shorter sound, like this. I'm going to set it to a pretty long release time. And now we can move on and do the same with our snare sound. So I'm going to duplicate this track. I'm going to send it to a new mixer track. And I'm going to set the snare to a new mixer track as well. And now I'm going to sidechain the snare to the new mixer track. And I'm going to do exactly the same, but I'm going to set it to a ratio that fits with our snare. So I'm going to do exactly the same to set the threshold to be pretty low, and I'm going to set the ratio to be pretty high. I'm going to see how it sounds. So here we go. So we can barely hear field recording right now, so we can increase the ratio. And as you can hear, it adds a lot of texture to our snares. We can also change the tension curve, but I'm going to keep it around here. Something like that. So now every time a snare hits, there's also a different sound to each one of the snares. And now we're going to do the same with a synth sound. So I'm going to duplicate it again, and I'm going to send it to a new mixer track here, and I'm going to send the synth sound to a mixer track as well. I'm going to sidechain the synth to the field recording as well. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but I'm going to set the threshold and ratio to be fitting for the volume of the synth. So let's start and see if it works well. So we can barely hear it, so I'm going to increase the ratio. Something like that. And if you want to have a less sharp of an attack, you can increase the attack time by a bit. Like that. You can increase the release. And as you can hear, each time a different part of the recording is triggered and creates a different texture for each one of our synth fits. So now I'm going to drag it so you can hear it in a different place. And altogether it should sound like this. Compared to this. So of course the levels that I put each of the field recordings here are pretty much exaggerated so that you can hear it a bit better. So in real tracks you should try and make it more subtle so that it doesn't add a rhythm of its own like here, where it gets slightly annoying. So you should put it at slightly lower levels. But this trick is still very good to add variation to pretty much any sound in your track. And it's great because it's always evolving. There's not a single point in the track that it's going to sound the same, because the recording is pretty long and each part of it has a different frequency content. And that is pretty much it. I'll put a download link to the field recording sample used in this video in the description below, so you can try out this effect with it. If you found this tutorial helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what subject you want me to cover up next time.